Hello everybody and welcome back to the Farming Simulator 25 tips and tricks video. Today we're going to be talking about all things biogas. So the biogas plant has been around in the Farm Sim franchise for quite a long time, and in my opinion is basically the OG production. I started my Farm Sim adventure back in Farm Sim 17, and it had been well established at that point as the go-to place in order to make plenty of money by putting silage into that machine basically as fast as possible and for as long as possible, because silage and the BGA was just a quick way of writing checks. Now, I think silage has been dialed back a little bit. It's not as big a moneymaker as it used to be, but the BGA is still going to be possibly a very good companion to have in your gameplay. If you don't incorporate it now, you might want to start incorporating it after you watch this video. Now, on all three base maps, Riverbend Springs, Hutan Pantai, and Zilanka, we have a biogas plant that is pre-placed. On most mod maps, you will also find a BGA pre-placed because it is that much of a staple to so many different players' gameplay. But if you're on a map that doesn't have a BGA, or you can't afford the in-game BGA quite yet, you may want to put your own down. And to that end, Giants has provided us with 3 different options included within the base game. Now, this video is not going to factor in any modded BGAs, because the reality is a video produced today talking about various modded BGAs could be rendered completely obsolete tomorrow when a different BGA comes out. So I am not going to be talking about modded BGAs, other than the fact that to acknowledge, yes, they exist, and yes, they're going to dynamically change your gameplay, just like the base game BGAs will, but they may accept different products, they may produce different outputs, and they may also produce and accept those outputs in different ratios. To that end, we're going to be talking now about the base game biogas plants. We have the smallest BGA, which is right here, $435,000. It is going to be a 99 kilowatt BGA. And what that basically means is it's going to produce, in essence, 99 kilowatts of energy over a particular span of time. All biogas plants are going to accept the same inputs. That is going to be sugar beet cut, slurry, manure, or silage. And they're all going to produce the same outputs in methane gas, electrical energy, which is going to be automatically sold at the top of the hour, and digestate. A little bit larger of a BGA is going to be a 250 kilowatt version, which is going to be located right here for $875,000. And then we have a large placeable in the 500 kilowatt biogas plant, which is located right here for $1,180,000. Now, the 500 kilowatt BGA produces a bit more methane than the other two that we just talked about, and as a result, this one is going to produce a bit more money for the same input that you would have put into the 250 or the 99 kilowatt biogas plants. But nothing compares to what you could possibly make by purchasing the in-game biogas plant. So we're here on Riverbend Springs, and all of our information is going to be based on that fact. But I don't suspect the Zilanka or Hutan Pantai BGAs to be that different from the one here on Riverbend Springs. This one is going to be classified as 1 megawatt, which means it's going to produce a lot more energy. It's going to process our inputs a lot faster, and as a result, it's going to earn us a bit more money over the same time period. And this one is going to produce a significantly more amount of methane gas as opposed to electrical energy, which in the end is going to result of the most money for the same amount of input put into this plant as opposed to the 3 placeable plants. Now let's pull up the production chains information and talk a little bit about inputs and outputs. As I mentioned, all these biogas plants are going to accept manure, silage, slurry, and sugar beet cut. And all of them are going to produce digestate, methane, and electrical charge. The 3 placeable biogas plants are going to provide you 90% of what you put in as digestate out, and it's going to take 60% of what you put in and produce electrical energy as a result. So again, if we put in 1,000 liters of sugar beet cut, we're going to get 900 liters of digestate. If we put in 1,000 liters of silage, we're going to get 900 liters of digestate. We're also going to produce 600 units of electrical energy. And if we put 1,000 units should be cut, we're going to get 600 units of electrical energy out. The two smallest biogas plants produce the smallest amount of methane gas per cycle of 1 unit of methane gas across all the different inputs for the smallest BGA. The 250 kilowatt version is going to produce 2 units of methane gas across all the units of inputs. Meanwhile, the 500 kilowatt version is going to step that up a little bit by producing 42 units worth of methane gas for all the various inputs. And that is why the 500 kilowatt BGA is going to give you a little bit more money for the same inputs as the 250 and 900 kilowatt versions, because we are getting more methane gas out while maintaining the same percent of electrical charge output. Now, all of that is flipped on its head with respect to the 1 megawatt map placed biogas plant. We still get 90% out digestate from what we put in, but it is a significant flip-flop. Now we get 60% methane out as opposed to 60% electric, and we get a little bit of electric energy out per cycle for all of our various inputs. And as a result of the twist with respect to our methane gas, we get a lot more money for the same amount of input from our MAP BGA than we do even from the 500 kilowatt BGA. Meaning that when I put 1,000 liters of sugar beet cut into each and every one of these biogas plants in order, I received approximately $640 of income from both the 99 and the 250 kilowatt biogas plants. I received about $750 or so from the 500 kilowatt biogas plant, and that was again because of the additional methane gas. The MAP BGA, I earned over $800, again from the exact same 1,000 liters worth of sugar beet cut. So the MAP one is the one to own if you can afford it, because you're going to get more money for the exact inputs that you put into the BGA. Now, what can you put into this again? Well, like I said, sugar beet cut, manure, slurry, and silage. For all of your solids, you're going to want to put them in this hopper, and depends on basically which BGA you're at as to what the hopper looks like. But there will be a hopper pretty much for every BGA. So there we go. We've dumped our sugar beet cut. If we happen to have a trailer full of manure, let me show you where we're going to have to put that. So let's pull alongside here and just see. Yes, we will be able to dump our manure in. So let's go ahead and do that. I tried to dump sugar beet cut, and it wouldn't let me dump over there. So that's why I mentioned you're going to have to dump your solids in up top. If we had our silage, well, we could put silage bales in there, or we could also add loose silage to our BGA. As you can see here. And then if we have slurry, well, we could just put slurry on our fields, right? Because it is organic fertilizer. But why take and simply put manure or slurry on your fields when you can run it through a biogas plant and earn money as a result of the methane and energy production, and then get 90% of that back out with respect to your digestate? And that is exactly what we're going to do here. So here I have some slurry, and instead of putting it on the field, we're going to come up to this dump point, and we're going to feed it into the BGA. As an end result, 90% of what we put in, we're going to get back out as digestate, which we can then put on our field for the same fertilization layer as we did with our manure or our slurry. So let's go ahead and now activate our manure production. And we'll activate our slurry production. And while we're at it, we'll activate our sugar beet production. And this one will activate our silage production. Now, while this stuff is running a little bit, let's take a look at our inputs again. So across all 4 of our biogas plants, silage is going to be the one that is going to process the most, the quickest. So across all of these, 840 units of silage in, 24 cycles per month, right? For the small one, the large one is going to be 2,120 units of silage, again, 24 cycles per month. The 500 kilowatt version is going to be 4,243 units of silage, 24 cycles a month. And the big boy, being in the map one, 84 silage per cycle, again 24 cycles per month. Compare that to manure and slurry. It's going to be 200 units per 24 cycles, or sugar beet cut, just 100 units. And those ratios are going to be similar across all the different biogas plants. So silage is still a quick way of getting money from the BGA or getting digestate from the biogas plant, but it does take a little bit more time to make. If you're not sure on how to produce silage, well, I do have a dedicated video talking about silage production where we produce silage from both grass bales as well as from corn or maize using a forage harvester and then using a silage bunker, covering it up and waiting for the silage to be generated. So let's talk about where the various inputs and outputs are on all of these biogas plants. So on the 99 kilowatt biogas plant, we have our digester, which is right here. This is where we're going to bring our solids. We have our input here for slurry. And we have our digestate output located over here. The 250 kilowatt BGA, we again have our digester for our solids. We have our input for our liquid slurry. And we have our output trigger here for digestate. For the large 500 kilowatt version, we have our output for digestate over here along this side. We're going to find our input for our slurry located right here. And then we have our input for our solids located right there. And you may have noticed we actually have a second output for digestate located here. So this particular BGA has 2 digestate outputs. Well, let's just quickly run across the street here to the in-game biogas plant. Again, we're here on Riverbend Springs. And to our left, we're going to find the output for our digestate. Right there. And if we make our way around to the right, we're going to find our dump point for our slurry. Right here. And then we have actually 2 dump points for our solids. One on either side. So one right there. And one over here. And then this particular facility also has 2 large 3-sided silage bunkers. So we can produce silage in large quantities. Again, for the purpose of then ultimately running it through the BGA in order to produce some money. Now I've sped this up a few hours. We still have a fair bit of input to still process. We still have 18,000 liters worth of slurry to process. We've got a little bit of manure. And in our smaller biogas plant, we've completely exhausted all of the silage. You see, we now have 1,815 liters of digestate in order to pull out of this particular BGA. And meanwhile, the other BGA still processing. We have over 4,000 liters worth of digestate. And again, we're going to get a lot more because we're still processing our slurry. Now, what type of money have we earned already from just a quick couple hours of processing a couple thousand liters of slurry, a couple thousand liters of silage, manure, and 1,000 liters of sugar beet cut? Well, let's go ahead and check out that finance screen and see what we've got going on. So we have already earned $4,409. And we still have a fair bit of slurry to go. Just by running a little bit of silage through that BGA, a little bit of manure through this one, and a little bit of sugar beet cut through this one, and some slurry. So you can see there is some pretty good profit potential here in the biogas plant. And we can use this to then convert manure or slurry into digestate, which we can then put on our fields. Now, I haven't really talked about how much money we're getting from methane or how much money we're getting from electrical charge. Well, that's because it's not necessarily that well exposed, at least not well exposed in the prices screen. So if we come back and look here, and we look through all of the various miscellaneous items, we don't see electric charge listed here. We also don't see methane listed here. So we really don't know what the cost per hour is per 1,000 liters for those two various inputs. I mean, I suppose we could probably do some math and attempt to derive those inputs, but unless those inputs are fixed, the fact that we have a floating economy might make it a little bit difficult. If you have a good source of manure or slurry, I think a BGA is just a natural extension of those animals. So cows, pigs, if you've got a lot of cows and a lot of pigs, those are going to be pumping out a lot of manure and potentially a lot of slurry. Instead of running that into your field, again, I think it's a great idea to process that into digestate and then put that out here on your field as fertilizer, because you are going to get some more money than you would just by naturally selling manure and slurry at a sell point. I hope you all have a better understanding as to what the biogas plant is here on FarmSim, and maybe you're going to be willing to give it a try and see if you can expand your profitability by incorporating the biogas plant into your own gameplay. As you can see here, we are not only cultivating our field, but we're also giving it a fertilization layer by putting that digestate down. So if we come over here and we check out our info tab, you see that we are indeed giving it a fertilization layer as we are driving our slurry applicator with a cultivation end through the field. Until next time, happy farming.